It is interesting to note that during the inflation of the speculation bubble in the 90s, the alternative market didn't suffer nearly as much as the mainstream in terms of quality. Brilliant works were still being published, and they were continuing to find and build upon their audience. Surely the main reason for this was that buyers of alternative comics weren't looking to make investments. They simply wanted to read some good comic books. Alternative comic books didn't have silly gimmick covers or gratuitous crossovers. They were just plain creative comic books produced by gifted individuals. In most cases, it's difficult enough to get people to buy a single copy of an alternative comic book, especially an obscure, small press book. Never mind trying to market multiple alternate cover versions of the same books. These books survived on the merits of their stories and the talents of their creators. Maybe that's why the more mainstream publishers have been hiring so many alternative comics creators to work on their properties. Creators far removed from the superhero mainstream have lately been lending their talents to Marvel and DC, as well as some other unlikely places. Numerous alternative creators who had little to no exposure in the mainstream have recently been granted stints writing and/or drawing a number of mainstream titles. While some may see this as the creators selling out or otherwise compromising their indie cred, I prefer to view it differently. I think it's a positive sign that the big publishers are branching out and injecting their comics with a fresh perspective. It has long been my opinion that the major publishers need to take greater notice of the amazing talents working in the independent sector. Tethering books to a certain aesthetic sensibility only causes stagnation after time, and even the most exciting and progressive books will become stale if all they offer is variations on the same familiar themes. Shaking things up stylistically bears favorable results for all involved. Wider recognition is gained for creators who too often toil in obscurity. Publishers gain credibility for being willing to take risks. Readers who otherwise wouldn't touch a mainstream book may follow their favorite indie stars to these new projects. And conversely, readers who enjoy the new flavor in their favorite mainstream book might just check out the creator's more obscure work. More often than not, the synthesis of mainstream and alternative yields very impressive results, and producing great stories is in everyone's best interest. Bringing alternative artists into the mainstream sandbox is an important step towards establishing much-needed diversity and showing that thinking outside the box is not just the domain of the alternative world. What good is an art form as flexible as comic books if a little experimentation isn't allowed? The line between mainstream and alternative in the comic book market might already be a little smudged, but I don't see a problem with blurring it more. And if it's eliminated completely, well, that's a fantastic thing. After all, one of the most important functions of art, at least in my opinion, is to expand established boundaries and often to break them completely.